I probably should have done this in June, but it's okay. Let's go ahead. Let's jump into the mid-year freakout tag. Hello readers, it's that time again to do the mid-year book freakout tag. The original creators are Chami and Ellie, and I'll make sure to link to them in the description below. In addition, I'll also link to any previous year's mid-year book freakout tag I've done. I think I've done them starting in 2018, so hopefully you'll check them out if you haven't already. And the first question is, what is the best book that you've read in 2021? And this book, for me, hands down, is Beach Read by Emily Henry. Now, I want to start by letting you know that it is not a light and fluffy beach read. I think it's interesting that it was called that, but it focuses a lot on grief. I really don't want to say too much about it because it's really about dealing with grief, but also kind of, you know, realizing that we're flawed human beings and that we all have dysfunctions that are going to play out in different ways. But at its core, it's about two writers who end up neighbors and they decide to challenge each other by writing each other's genres. So the female main character ends up trying to do not romance. I can't remember exactly what she was doing. I don't think it was necessarily nonfiction that she was trying to write, but maybe it was more like literary fiction, and he decides to write romance. Anyway, I thought the book was absolutely spectacular. It made me laugh, it made me cry. I loved the way the sex scenes were described. I just felt like I was at the edge of my seat the entire time, and Emily Henry is definitely a new auto-buy author for me. The second question is best sequel that I've read in 2021, and it seems a little unfair, but I think this one wins by default because it's the only sequel I've read in 2021, and that is Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. This was okay. I enjoyed it. It had a lot going on, but I don't know. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first. I think I gave it 3 stars. But yeah. Question number 3, new release I haven't read yet, but I want to. And for that, I'm going to say The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, who is the same author of The Silent Patient. And I really enjoyed The Silent Patient. I think it took me on a wild ride. I don't think I loved the ending, but it was still like a fun, enjoyable thriller. And so I'm really excited about reading The Maidens, which I think is about like a secret society. There is an instructor on campus who ends up kind of leading the secret society, I think. I don't know exactly what it's about, but it's dark academia and it sounded really interesting and I can't wait to pick it up. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. For this, I have 2 books. One is the newest Nina Moreno, which is called Our Way Back to Always. This book takes place in Port Coral, like Don't Date Rosa Santos, and I've just been looking forward to this book since it was announced. The other book is If This Gets Out by Sophie Gonzalez and Hale Dietrich. And it's about a boy band, and I think 2 of the people in the band end up developing a thing for each other, and they don't want that to be public. I'm not sure, but I may have heard whispers that it was inspired by an actual boy band and an actual person. I don't know. Number 5, biggest disappointment. Now, this wasn't my biggest disappointment because it was that disappointing. I think it was just because I had really high expectations for it, and that is Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. I loved her first 2 books. I was expecting to love this one just as much, and there was just something about the main characters that I just couldn't buy into. Like, there was funny parts in the story. I still really appreciate her writing. I loved the secondary characters, but that main couple, like, I just couldn't buy it. I couldn't buy that they had a thing for each other, and that kind of ruined the whole story for me. So I don't know if maybe there were kind of like caricatures of people and it just wasn't believable enough, but it you know, as a rom-com, you want to be able to support the main couple, and I just couldn't believe it. Number 6, biggest surprise. I think that would be Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. This book is written in third person present, so when I first started reading it, I had a hard time getting into the writing. Eventually it grew on me and I just loved it. I think I also just read it at the perfect time because I was going through some stuff, and so it just felt really relatable in terms of all the mental health stuff that gets addressed in the book. But Grace, the main character, who is nicknamed Honey Girl, she's kind of going through something where she's really trying to figure out her place in life and what it is she wants to do. She's so used to kind of doing what her father has told her, and now she wants to figure out like what it is she really wants to do and not what she's being told to do. So it's mostly about her and her journey and her self-discovery. But there is a little bit of romance, but that's definitely not the main focus. Number 7, favorite new author. I think I've already answered this, and that is Emily Henry. Number 8, newest fictional crush. I had to give this a lot of thought and kind of review the books that I've read this year, but if I had to pick a fictional crush, I would say Calvin from Roomies by Christina Lauren, and he was a New York subway musician, and he was great in that story, I felt. Number 9, newest favorite character. For that, I would pick Broem from Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez. He is Australian. I listened to the audiobook. I loved how they did his accent and just the humor, his sense of humor. I appreciated him so much. There's things that I've been quoting that he said, and he was just a really fun character. Number 10 is Book That Made You Cry, but Beach Read made me cry. Honey Girl made me cry, and I would like to pick something different. So I'm going to change this up a little bit, and I'm going to say book that really frustrated me. I did give it 5 stars. I thought it was a great book. I really appreciated the writing, but it was a frustrating read for many different reasons, and that's Slingshot by Mercedes Helveen. I think I'm saying that correctly. Hopefully I am. And so it was a difficult read because it really covers a lot of the mistakes that teenagers make when they're young. The main character just could not keep her mouth shut. She had really poor impulse control when it came to saying certain things. It was just hard. She was an unlikable character, and again, it was kind of painful. It really brought me back to being a teenager and all of those uncomfortable moments. And so the fact that the book was able to make me feel all of that again, it felt like such an experience. So that's why I gave it 5 stars, but it was a frustrating read. Question number 11, book that made you happy. That would have to be Perfect on Paper. I kind of went into it without reading too much about it, but I was so pleasantly surprised. I loved the characters. I loved how the book addressed bi erasure. I loved the premise, which was there's this girl who has a locker, and she's kind of like a Dear Abby thing where people put notes in the locker for her to answer relationship related questions, but she doesn't just answer them. She does research, and she's done research on relationships and personal growth and things like that. So her responses are just so good, and I loved the idea of teenagers getting this valuable information. You know what I'm saying? Stuff that you wouldn't know unless you had been to therapy or you had done research about it, and I just thought that was so great. The writing was wonderful. There were many funny parts. I know at one point I was like clapping for what was happening in the book. I don't think I've ever clapped for a book before, but I definitely did because I just felt this moment of excitement, and I just thought it was great. So once again, that was Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez. Number 12 is most beautiful book you've bought this year, and that would be The Great Gatsby and Other Works. I bought this at the beginning of the year, and I pre-ordered it. I had to wait some time for it, but I just thought it was so gorgeous. The pages, the gold on the outside, the way it kind of looks like a vintage book. I love it so much. Lastly, number 13, what books do I want to read by the end of the year? I really want to focus on catching up on my Colleen Hoover books. I'm a little bit behind, so I need to read Verity, Heartbones, and Layla. But the other books I also want to focus on are some of the Book of the Month books that I have purchased. At this point, I think I've read 4 of them. I had 14 total. And I'm just going to quickly go down the list. So we have Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala, People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, How Lucky by Will Leach, Imposter Syndrome by Kathy Wong, The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, Sky Falling by Mia Mackenzie, Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon, 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard, and We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang. What books are you hoping to read by the end of the year? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for joining me. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified when I upload new videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time.